Hello and welcome to another NetLab session for the VMware vSphere 6.0 install, configure, manage. Today we're going to look at Lab7, which is using your standard and distributed switches. In this addendum, you will be provided guidance on performing Lab7 using standard switches and Lab8 using vSphere distributed switches from the VMware vSphere 6.0 install, configure, manage course. We'll be using the NetLab Plus system. Our objective in this lab is to create a standard and distributed virtual switch and port group. You'll be using the VI client, or we will be using the V client machine to complete our objectives. And we'll be performing the following tasks. We're going to view the current standard switch configuration, create a standard switch with a virtual machine port group. We'll attach our virtual machine to a virtual switch port group. Then we will attach the ESXi host to the new distributed switch. We'll examine the distributed switch configuration, and we'll migrate the virtual machines to a distributed switch port group. Because of the number of steps involved, we will record this over a series of videos. Here we're reviewing the lab topology, and in this topology, this vSphere environment, we actually have two ESXi hosts. We have ESXi1 and ESXi2. We also have a single vCenter server, which is a vCenter appliance which is hosted on one of our ESXi hosts. It doesn't really matter which one. And we're accessing the vCenter through the V client, which is a SUSE virtual machine. We'll be looking at a standard switch which lives on a specific host, but we'll also look at distributed switches which are spread across two hosts in this environment. Now, upon logging into the vCenter server from the V client, we're going to open into the home page, and what we're going to do is click on hosts and clusters. After we do that, we'll go ahead and access ESXi host 1, and we'll select the Manage tab and then the Networking button, which will expose the Virtual Switches option. In this exam, or in this document, it's asking you to record the name of the vSwitch listed in the content area. We'll see some additional steps, but we're not going to be really concerned with those. Let's go ahead and shift over to the vCenter server and follow those steps. Okay, so here we are in vSphere and the web client, and we can see the hosts and clusters node. So we'll go ahead and click on that in inventories. And then from there, what we want to do is select ESXi host 1. So you notice we expanded that. So we'll go ahead and click on that to select it. And then moving over to the center section, we're going to click on the Manage. And then we're going to drop down to Networking, which exposes our virtual switches. And so if we take a look here, we can see that we have a virtual switch, and this one is called vSwitch 0. You can see it right down here. And here you can see the actual topology of that switch. I'm going to scroll this down here a little bit so you can see how this switch is set up. This right here is our switch. We have a series of port groups on the switch, series of virtual machines connected to these ports. We also have an uplink port, which is connected to the VMNIC 0 physical adapter. So it looks like it's running at a full gigabit. We also have a management port, VM kernel port for our management network. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward now. We're going to create a standard virtual switch. Okay, so you can see here that we're moving on to creating a standard virtual switch. We're going to create a switch named Production for our virtual machine networking. So in the main workspace, we'll click the Add Host Networking icon in the upper left corner of the content area. The Add Networking wizard will appear. Let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on that button. There's our wizard. So we're going to be adding networking. So in the first page, we're going to select our connection type. And you can see we have three choices: the VM kernel adapter, a physical network adapter, or a virtual machine port group for a standard switch. Since this is for our virtual machines, we want the third choice. This is a port group that handles the virtual machine traffic on a standard switch. Let's click Next. On the next screen here, we can see that we're going to select a target device. So we need to select a new standard switch, and then we'll click Next. On the Create a Standard Switch page, we're going to click on the plus icon under Assigned Adapters. Now you see we have two adapters exposed here. We're going to select the first VMNIC1, that's already selected for us, and we'll press the OK button here. On the Create a Standard Switch page, we'll now click Next. Before we do that though, let's have a quick look at this. What we've done is we assigned a VMNIC1 as an active adapter, and you can see its properties here. So its name is VMNIC1, and the driver for that is an E1000. It's going to be connected. Its speed is a full gigabit. It is full duplex, but it can auto-negotiate if the device it's connected to runs at a lower speed. I've got a few other items in here, but you can see that they're not available, including CDP and so forth. Let's go ahead and press the next button here. We're now on the connection settings page. We're going to use network labels to identify the migration compatible connections that are common to two or more hosts. So we want to give this a network label. So the network label we're going to give this is production. And then we'll go ahead and press the next button. Oh, by the way, notice that VLAN ID, we're going to leave this set to none, which is the default. So we'll press the next button. We get an overview here on the Ready page. We can see that we've got vSwitch 1 with a VMNIC1 assigned adapter. The virtual machine port group's name is production, and there's no VLAN ID. So we'll go ahead and click Finish. Now, notice we've returned to the virtual switches page, and we want to select our new virtual switch 1, which wasn't available before because we just created it. And here you can see the topology of this: a single virtual switch with a VMNIC, and then a production port group here. So we can see that we've just verified that this now exists, and we're good to go. Okay, we're moving on to step 3, where we will attach a virtual machine to a virtual switch port group. So we're going to attach the student virtual machine 01 to a standard virtual switch port group, the one that we created named production. This is for virtual machine networking. So we need to expose those virtual machines. So we're going to click on the VM and Templates tab in the inventory pane from our Object Navigator area. And then coming down here, we can see that we have Test VM01. So we'll right-click Test VM01 and select Edit Settings. Now, within the Edit Settings pane, we're going to go down here to Network Adapter 1. So go ahead and click on the triangle next to Network Adapter 1 to expand that. And then if you take a look over here, we can see that it's currently connected to VM Network, and we want to change that to our new port group. So we're going to select Production. And we'll verify that Connected Power On is checked. Then we'll click OK. and that closes the edit settings. Now we're going to right click our test VM01, go to power, power on. And if we select the test VM01 and click on the summary tab, we can see that it is currently powered on. If we go down to the VM hardware and expand that, we can see that the network adapter is currently connected to production. So that is our new production port group that we created on our new standard virtual switch. So we've now successfully moved the test VM01 from one switch. If we take a look over here, and that switch is the VM network switch that it was previously connected to. It is now connected to the production switch. If we click over here, we can see our production switch here. We can get a quick summary of that production switch. And there you can see that the virtual machine that has been connected to that. Let's go back to our virtual machine here. And if we right click on that, we can go back to power and power that little guy off. And then let's go ahead and confirm the power off. Well, there you have it. Pretty easy creating a new standard switch on an ESXi host. If we take a quick look here at our hosts, and you can see that we only have the one switch, the vSwitch 0 on ESXi host 2. When you select ESXi host 1, you can see that we also have the vSwitch 1. So both are available on ESXi 1, switch 0 and 1, but when we select ESXi 2, you can see that we only have the one switch available. So we're going to take a look at what happens when we create a distributed switch. That'll be in our next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.